Good evening, good evening, good evening. Thank you to those of you who are already on and who have joined us for tonight's back to school legislative update. Please drop your name and city in the chat so we can see who has joined us this evening. We're very excited to have all of you with us this evening. You could be anywhere else tonight at 7 p.m., but you decided to come and join Public Schools First NC and North Carolina PTA. And for that, we say thank you. So we're going to give folks an opportunity to drop their information in the chat, and we will get started in about a minute and a half. Thank you. Oh, we got people from all over North Carolina. Great. So I see some folks from Pittsburgh and Cary, Iredell, Durham, Zinedale, Pittsburgh. Okay, got a couple of people from Pittsburgh. Lillington, Asheville, Holly Springs, Greensboro, Winston-Salem, High Point. Okay, we're all over the map. New Hanover, Union County, Youngsville, Mecklenburg, Chapel Hill, Raleigh. Awesome, awesome. Well, again, thank you so much for joining us this evening for our back to school legislative update, hosted and sponsored by Public Schools First NC and North Carolina PTA. My name is Dr. Shanika Moore Lawrence, and I'm the proud president of NCPTA with the term starting July 1, 2023 through June 30th of 2025. And I say that because my president-elect is on the call. So it's a reminder that his time is coming soon, sooner than he thinks. So again, thank you for joining us. We have some very important information to share with you all. I'm sure that by now, most of you are back in school or have been in school for a while if you are year-round calendar. But I know a lot of our traditional schools started this week. So happy back to school week. We're so thankful that the school year is off to a great start, and Public Schools First NC and NCPTA wish you in advance a happy school year for 24-25. It's with great pleasure that I introduce today our facilitator, none other than Miss Lynn, who is the Outreach Director for Public Schools First NC. And without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to her to give us the good information that she's going to share. But before she does that, I'll move on to the next slide and say on behalf of NCPTA.
Oh, got it.
We do,
okay.
Yes, on behalf of NCPTA, we just want to share our mission and our values. PTA's mission is to make every child's potential a reality by engaging and empowering families and communities to advocate for all children. And we believe that through collaboration, commitment, accountability, respect, inclusivity, and integrity, that we are able to accomplish our mission. And a great part of our work, and while we are the oldest and largest child advocacy organization in North Carolina, has to do with advocacy. And we advocate on a great level, and I'm glad to be partnering this year and these years, I would say, with Public Schools First NC on legislative work and uplifting those priorities that we mutually share in regards to making sure that our children, their families, and our educators have what they need. And so if you are new to this space or you're a pro, I guarantee you that this evening from Miss Lynn Edmonds, you will learn something and get some nuggets. So sit back and get ready to have a wealth of information shared. Do know we are recording, and we will publish this on both our Public Schools First NC, social media, YouTube, and also on NCPTA. So without further ado, Lynn, turn it over to you.
Thank you. We are thrilled about this partnership that we have with the North Carolina PTA. And thank you, Shanika, for that lovely introduction. We see the blue line that all of you see, and our tech person is working on that. But we can move on. It's not a deal breaker for these slides. So I just want to tell you, if Public Schools First NC is new to you, I want to tell you a little bit about us, what we do, who we are. We are a 501c3 statewide advocacy organization solely focused on traditional public education, traditional public schools in North Carolina. That means schools that do not require an application or some kind of admission or tuition, etc. The traditionally publicly funded public schools in our state. And we, as a C3, we do not take positions on candidates. We don't endorse candidates or rate candidates or anything like that, but we do have very strong positions on issues, which is permissible under the C3 guidelines, and that will be evident to you as we move forward. So tonight's agenda, we're going to talk about just a few general, just to set us, just to frame our conversation, a few general facts about public school funding in North Carolina. We're going to do a recap of the short session of the North Carolina General Assembly. We're going to talk about voucher expansion. We're going to briefly give you an update on Leandro, which here's a spoiler alert. There's not much of an update, but we will talk about Leandro briefly. And then we're going to close out with some advocacy and information about the elections in 2024. So with public school funding, and again, this is just to sort of set our conversation and have a common understanding of how public school funding works in North Carolina. Most of our funding for traditional K-12 public schools comes from the state. And that means the state legislature, state taxes and revenues at about 61%. And when we talk about local funding, let me get the screen share. Let's see. Forgive us as we figure this out. So as our team is bringing that slide deck back up, I'll just say when we talk about local funding, we are talking about the funding that is going to come from your local taxes. And school boards in North Carolina are not allowed, we don't have taxing authority. And that means that a school board can't raise taxes to get the revenues that they need. They have to go to their local county government, which is in most cases is your county commissioners. In some counties, I think they call it the alderman, but that's what we mean when we are talking about local dollars. All right, thank you, team. Okay, let's see if am I sharing? Okay. Oh, X out of that. Okay, so Elizabeth, are you advancing the slides?
It's me, Lynn.
Okay, thank you, Shanika. All right, I'll just let you know when I want you to advance. Thank you very much. So we get that when we're talking about school funding, it is a very natural, obvious question to ask about, well, what about the lottery? Isn't the lottery supposed to, give us lots of funds for public schools? In theory, sure, but that's not how it actually works. And this is not unique to North Carolina. Very often, lotteries across the country are sold to the public as a way to, increase public school funding. Certainly that was the case in North Carolina when the lottery was introduced some years ago. But the fact is that really only, less than 25% of lottery revenues go to public schools. What actually happens is that more than 60% of the revenues goes toward the prizes. And then there's overhead, if you will, involved with running the lottery. So the lottery is not the solution for the public school funding challenges that we have in our state. You see a QR code there. We do have more detail about the lottery, and you can scan that QR code and read our fact sheet on lottery revenues. Next slide. This is something that I make sure that I tell everyone in every presentation that I give because it is very important for you to understand. there is something known as a corporate tax rate. This is going to be taxes that are paid by major corporations. Okay, Red Hat, Lenovo, SAS, Amazon, Google. The state legislature, our corporate tax rate used to be in 2013, it was 6.9%. When it was 6.9%, it was not the highest in the country. It was not some crazy high tax rate for corporations. Every budget cycle since 2013, the North Carolina General Assembly has lowered and chopped and sliced and diced that corporate tax rate until it was 2.5% in 2021. And at that time, it was the lowest in the United States, the lowest in all 50 states at 2.5%. It's a mystery to me and many others as to why that wasn't satisfactory, but apparently it wasn't. And so the General Assembly in the most recent state budget set the corporate tax rate to go to 0%. And that means, if you look at the red text on the right-hand side of the slide, that corporations that do business in North Carolina will no longer contribute to the public good, public goods and services, such as and including public schools. So corporations in North Carolina will no longer, as of 2025, contribute anything to the public education system of which they and their employers benefit from. And I just think that's very important to understand and to know. And it is law. It is already passed. It is done. The only way to reverse this or get the corporate tax rate back on a, out of zero and something is to elect leadership at the state level that will undo this. Next slide, please. This is just, again, just to frame our conversation for the evening. It's just a snapshot of things that were true in 2008, 2009, where we were and where we are now in 2023, 2024. So our average teacher pay used to be 25th in the country. We are now 38th. Our per pupil spending was 40th. We are now 38th, so not much movement there. We used to have supplemental pay for teachers with master's degrees or educators with master's degrees. We don't have that anymore. We used to have class size caps on grades 4 through 12. We don't have that anymore. There is K-3 class size legislation that happened around 2015, 2016. And that's fine. Smaller class sizes are great, but it came with no funding. So that's another webinar for another day. But and then our educators and all state employees used to have health benefits upon retirement. That as of January 2021, state employees no longer have health benefits when they retire. Next slide, please. In 0809, we did not have what's known as school letter grades. These are not student grades. This is a letter grade that is assigned to a school. And we now have those. And again, that was legislation in some recent years. In our view, this is a privatization tool because schools that receive the A's and the B's have generally, the A's and the B's and the D's and the F's follow the economic trend of your school, so that the schools that have high wealth students often get the A's and the B's, and schools that have students from lower incomes or are higher need generally get the D's and the F's. It does not paint a true picture of what's happening in the school. So that's another change that has happened in the last decade. The cap, we used to have a cap on the number of charter schools, which you'll see later in another slide. We did not have private school vouchers in North Carolina in 0809. We do now, and it's on steroids. We will talk about that in a little bit. Our teaching fellows was a more robust system in 0809. We are building that back up, but the teaching fellows was eliminated and then brought back, and it's just not where it used to be. And then you see there our total education budget from 0809 to 03, excuse me, 2023-24, and our student enrollment. Next slide, please. Okay, so the short session recap. So the General Assembly had their short session, they recessed. They are supposed to come back on September 9th. But the bottom line of the short session of 2024 is that the House and the Senate could not agree on a budget on state funding. And so the state, it just means that the state is operating under the most recent state budget that was passed in 2023. And I'm just going to ask our chair, Yvonne Brannon, if she has anything to add before we continue.
Well, I would only say that right now, the General Assembly has scheduled, Lynn, you want me to talk about they're coming back in September, or are we doing that later?
No, go ahead. No, now it's great.
So right now, the General Assembly is scheduled to come back on September the 9th and 10th. They have canceled their dates in October, and they won't come back again after September until November after the election. Right now, a lot of folks are pretty upset and looking forward to trying to do some advocacy work around September the 9th because of all the unfinished business. This is one of the things, teacher pay. We also know that all the federal funds are running out the end of September. All the daycare money that, that daycare cliff we've been talking about, they did a reprieve. That money runs out then in September. A lot of the Medicaid co-payments and monies that we need to match for people who qualify running out in September. So there's a lot of unfinished business. The bad news is that when they come back in September, they could do nothing. It's been rumored that they may just bring in a skeleton committee crews, have a few committee meetings, and go home. And of course, one of our opportunities is to encourage them to do something when they're here.
Thank you. Yep, that's perfect. Thank you so much. Next slide, Shanika. And Shanika, thank you again for driving the slide deck. I'm sorry we had a little technical hiccup. So, friends, here's a more detailed recap of the short session. Some of the things that the House proposed and some of the things that the Senate proposed. So I see your question, Chris Gilbert. Yes, we will. We're recording the webinar. You'll be able to view it later, and we're happy to share the slide deck as well. So the House proposed, and these are just some of the things that we are spotlighting for you this evening. This is not all encompassing of everything that happened in the short session, but with the big takeaways with regard to public ed, the House proposed a 1.4% average increase to teacher pay. That's not exactly, blowing anybody's hair back, but that's what they proposed. They proposed restoring master's degree for those that qualify. They proposed adding millions of more dollars to the private school vouchers. And again, we will cover that in more detail in just a minute. They proposed shifting excess lottery funds from going to capital funds for schools that desperately need it, counties that desperately need it across the state. They suggested or proposed moving those funds away from capital projects to private school vouchers, which we find very problematic. They also proposed removing the requirement for voucher students to take the same test as public school students. Advocates for public schools have been saying for a long time, well, at Public Schools First NC, we oppose private school vouchers, but our position is if we are going to have them, then private schools should be more accountable for student performance. And, the House, as you can see, was going in the complete opposite direction of that by removing even some small accountability measures. The Senate proposed no new pay raises for teachers. They did not propose restoring master's pay for those that qualify. They had no new funding for school counselors, health staff, counselors, social workers, school psychologists, nurses. That is also true for the House, but I couldn't fit it. So you'll see that little notation there that neither the House or the Senate proposed new funding for those positions. And then the Senate also proposed millions more dollars for private school vouchers. Next slide, please. All right, with regard to pre-K, and by the way, Public Schools First NC, we do also advocate for pre-K, not just K through 12 traditional public schools. Yvonne, go ahead and chime in. I see your hand.
That is not that came up by itself, Ann. Lynn, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I would say that on pre-K right now, this is another opportunity in September to really care. We have 24,000 children who are income or disability eligible for NC pre-K. That's a lot of children. So when you think about it, the kids who are on the waiting list are kids who already are severely economically challenged or have a disability that qualifies them for NC pre-K. 24,000 children. And this waiting list has been this way every single year for the last decade. So it's something that, we've been calling for and appreciate your help on it. It's that universal pre-K, that at minimum, every child who is income or disability eligible should be paid for by the state.
Thank you. And you all can read this. The gist is, the takeaway is that there was no new funding proposed to help these eligible pre-K students. If we're really serious about K-12 students performing better in student achievement, if we really mean what we say in North Carolina, we would be investing in our pre-K, because that is when growth and development is so critically important and so impactful for reading at grade level at third grade and many other benchmarks along the way. So you can read that data here, but there was no new funding suggested for pre-K. Next slide, please. However, everybody at the General Assembly leadership were hot to expand vouchers. So let's talk about that. Next slide, please. So this is a chart showing you the voucher expansion that is passed, that is in state law, state budget, with the 2023 state budget. The orange shows you, where we started in 2014-15, and that, reasonably slow progression. But you can see the purple spike is the investment that lawmakers have decided to make in private school vouchers while underfunding our traditional public schools. Next slide, please. This talks about the eligibility. So in addition to the funding that has been invested in voucher expansion, the eligibility has really been just completely undone. When the program was first proposed to the public or sold to the public, it was specifically for students from low-income families to escape their failing public schools. And really what we believed all along was that the real goal and the real intent was to have universal private school vouchers in North Carolina, and that is what has happened in recent years. The tiers 1, 2, 3, and 4 show you the income eligibility and how that has expanded since the program started. Next slide, please. So this slide shows you what's happened with regard to the applications. So when the income cap was completely removed in the last budget cycle in the long session of 2023, you see that the people that applied, or the most applications, came from tiers 3 and 4. So the takeaway here is that these private school vouchers they're not about children from, low income communities or home, situations. It really is a coupon for the wealthy to help them pay for private school tuition that they can already afford. That's the takeaway from this slide. Next slide, please. All right, this is showing you, so this is the same information that we saw a couple slides ago. Here, we forgot to change our color coding, and I apologize for that, but the yellow that you see is the same that was orange, like I said, in 2 slides ago, and the purple spike that we already saw. What this is showing you, the red spike, is what the Senate passed in the short session. One of the very first things that they did, and this was in May of 2024, so this was just a few months ago. One of the very first things they did when the short session began was to pass this even more funding to get the wealthy families that were left out, to make sure that they were removed from the waiting list to access a voucher. This did not pass the House. I know so we had some conversation about this in our staff meeting. It is a House Bill, House Bill 823, that was a different bill in 2023. In the short session of this year, 2024, the Senate gutted it, changed it, and did this, which is that red line that you see. They couldn't come to agreement. So this voucher expansion, which is the red, denoted by the red line increase, it didn't actually pass. But what we want you to understand is that it's still on the table. So when the lawmakers come back on September 9th, this is still on the table, and we want to be sure that advocates understand this, and we need to speak up on, where are our priorities? Do we want priorities for wealthy families to get their private school voucher coupon, or do we want children taken off of that pre-K waiting list? Do we want our traditional K-12 schools fully funded? Do we want Leandro fully funded? That's the takeaway that we want our advocates to understand going into this September 9th continuation of the short session. Next slide, please. All right, this is just very briefly just shows you the charter school expansion that has occurred since the cap was lifted in 2011. So in prior to 2011, North Carolina had a cap on the number of charter schools that could exist in the state. That cap was lifted in 2011, and you see the rapid growth of charter schools since that time. Again, a charter school topic is a whole other webinar that we'd be happy to do for anybody that's interested. Next slide, please. This tells you the differences of accountability for traditional K-12 public schools, charter schools, and voucher schools. So there is no accountability for voucher schools right now in North Carolina. That, again, is a whole other webinar. But it's something that if we're going to have voucher schools in this state, it's something that we need to change. And I would say there's bipartisan support for that. There are people on both sides of the aisle that, are interested in more accountability, but this is where we are today, that traditional and charters, they are required to participate in DPI's accountability program. Both charters and traditional public schools are given that A through F school letter grade that I talked about before, and they're required to do end of grade testing and end of course testing. Voucher schools are not. Traditional schools are required to use the North Carolina Standard Course of Study. Charters and voucher schools are not. Charter and voucher schools are exempt from the North Carolina school calendar law and the state mandated K-3 class size law. Charter schools are allowed to have as much as 50% of their teachers not licensed. That doesn't mean that there aren't charter schools that require, or voucher schools for that matter. Some of these schools may require all of their teachers to be licensed, but we're telling you what is in state law. And state law says that charter schools only have to have 50% and traditional schools aren't required to have any. Next slide, please. Or excuse me, voucher schools are not required to have any. Required to have teacher work days with professional development opportunities. That is true for traditional, but not for charter or voucher. Governed by an elected school board, true for traditional, not for charters and vouchers. Required public, transparent, uniform admission policies and discipline policies. That is true for traditional, not for charter or voucher. Required to provide student transportation and free and reduced price meals. True for traditional, not for charter or voucher. And then required to make their financial records public and are accountable to taxpayers. True for traditional, not for charter and voucher. Next slide, please. All right, very quickly, we'll just give again, I gave you the spoiler alert. You can forward, please, Shanika. Thank you. This is just a timeline. You can read this, later, but the court case started in 1994. By the way, we do have several webinars specifically about Leandro, where we go into great detail about the history of the case. We have one webinar in particular where two of the attorneys that were involved in the case speak to the status. All of that is available for free on our YouTube channel. So I refer you to that and encourage you to look at that. But this is just to give you a sense of the timeline. Started in 1994. The North Carolina State Supreme Court has issued multiple times that the state is in violation of the state constitution and that they should give schools this funding. But the General Assembly time and again has refused to comply. The elections of 2022 changed the dynamic of the North Carolina Supreme Court and made it more favorable to the state leadership that is pushing back on this. And so that's where we are. Fast forward to the next slide. So today we are in limbo. So the last arguments about the Leandro case were heard on February 22nd of this year. And we've been waiting since February for a ruling that could come at any time. And, here it is, the end of August, and we're still waiting. Next slide, please. This is from our partners at Every Child NC. They did a lot of data analysis, and they came up with these county profile sheets. This shows you what your county would receive. What we're looking at right now is the Charlotte-Mecklenburg school system, but they did this for every county in the state, showing what would happen if Leandro were fully funded, what your particular county would get. So at everychildnc.org, they have this available for New Hanover, Brunswick, Mecklenburg, Wake, all the counties across the state. It's a really excellent tool, and we encourage you to find that at everychildnc.org. Next slide, please. Here's another resource for Leandro advocacy from our friends over in Wilmington at Community Conversations. They have some Leandro activism tools and toolkits for you to use, including some social media tools and even a phone app where you can share their petition to get signatures in favor of fully funding the Leandro plan. So we encourage you to check them out, and we will send this link along with other links on your follow-up, the post-webinar email that you'll receive. You'll receive the slide deck, you'll receive the link to the YouTube recording of this, and you'll receive some other resources in that email for registering tonight. Next slide, please. Advocacy. So I'm going to turn it over to Shanika.
Thanks, Lynn. Thanks, Lynn. Trying to maneuver, steering my screen. Okay. Thank you so much, Lynn. Advocacy is a part of the mission of North Carolina PTA, as we shared before. Advocacy is how we as an organization were founded 105 years ago in Charlotte, North Carolina. And there are many, many things that NCPTA, along with other partners, have accomplished in the area of advocacy. And we are very excited and know that there's much more work to be done. So when we talk about advocacy, we do have some advocacy resources linked here. Thank you so much for the QR codes for your convenience. So you can click to see our NCPTA advocacy page. There's also numerous advocacy tips. And then also we do have various webinars throughout the year, and you can check those out as well. Turn it back.
Thank you. And you all, let me pause and say, I'm looking at the, let's see, it is 9:35. We wanted to allow some time for Q&A. So I know that I have rushed through a lot of content. So let me say a couple things. Just we can take deeper dives on any of these issues. Public Schools First NC, we do webinars and presentations on any topic for free. So please reach out to us, you know, because each of these like things that we've gone over in like at a rapid pace, I admit that, we can take a deeper dive. If it doesn't already exist on our YouTube channel, we are more than happy to, or even if it does, we are more than happy to present to your community group, to your PTA, to your, you know, whatever it is, your Rotary Club, whatever, please invite us and we'd be happy to do that either in person or in a webinar setting. So while we're going really quick tonight, please know that that invitation is extended to you. So this is a screenshot of our website. We want to highlight two of our tabs on our homepage, the Engage tab on our website. And again, this is on the homepage. You can find our Contact Elected Officials tool, where you can send them an email about Leandro or private school vouchers or what have you. We will connect you directly to your elected official. You can use our model language, or you can draft your own email in your own words. Either way is fine with us. This is just meant to make it easy for you to contact your elected officials. And you see other things there. So we have an education position questionnaire that we do send to everyone, state level candidates and state House and state Senate candidates. Every election cycle, we send them an education position questionnaire, and you can find the questionnaire and results for those that have turned it in. We keep that updated, and you can find that resource again under the Engage tab. Under our Resources tab, you can find our advocacy toolkit and other tips and things. So just, you know, please check out our website because there's a lot of really great information there. Next slide, please. And so, Shanika, what I'll do is I'll just say a couple of things and you can add on, you know, oh, you've got this one. Let me put myself on mute.
Oh, thank you. I was about to listen to you. So, okay, wonderful. So as you know, on November 5th, 2024 is Election Day. Of course, we encourage you to know that there's lots on the ballot and you want to know before you go. And so this year is definitely, like all election years, very important. We have president, governor, and Congress. We also have various state level things that will be on the ballot as well, our North Carolina legislator, our judges, and also local election actions as well. So we encourage you, of course, to vote early. We encourage you to make sure that you are registered to vote. Don't let anyone ever tell you that as a nonprofit, you are not able to engage in nonpartisan voter education activities, NCPTA, PTAs, councils, units, etc. You are able to do that, and we are pushing out information regarding that in our newsletter this month. But please note that that is a part of our advocacy, is making sure that our citizens are aware of their rights and how that they can ensure that they exercise that right and that they are indeed registered to vote.
And may I piggyback before we advance or go back to that one? No, you're good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So just to piggyback on what Shanika said, again, we're also a C3 nonpartisan organization, but we are all at Public Schools First NC and the North Carolina PTA. We are allowed to communicate to our organizations and our membership, our followers, just what's on the ballot. It's not about telling people who to vote for or how to vote. But so many people, we are already getting bombarded with news, media, television, what have you, about the presidential and the governor's race, and we understand that. But all of these down ballot folks, such as the lieutenant governor, the superintendent of public instruction, the state auditor, the state treasurer, the attorney general, etc., North Carolina House and Senate, people don't know how long their ballots are going to be. I mean, most voters in North Carolina are going to have more than 20 things to cast a vote on their ballot. And North Carolina no longer has straight ticket voting. So whether you're a Democrat, Republican, Independent, you can't vote a straight ticket. So you need to know who these folks are, who the candidates are, and you need to make a plan sooner rather than later. So and again, our advocates, Public Schools First NC, NCPTA, this is permissible under the C3, just telling people what's on the ballot without talking about candidates specifically or who to, just let people know that there's a lot there. Thank you, Shanika.
Awesome. Thank you, Lynn. Then as we continue, as far as the elections on November 5th, 2024, these are some very, very important dates. And so you have until next week, can't believe it's already September, to get your absentee ballots mailed. Also, October 11th is the last day for regular voter registration. Also start early voting on October 17th. Absentee ballots must be received by October 29th. November 2nd is the last day of the in-person early voting period. And then, of course, our primary election is on November 5th, and absentee ballots must be received on November 5th by that 7:30 p.m. deadline. And you can find additional tools and resources at ncvoter.org. And again, I want to emphasize that PTAs and other nonprofit organizations are those that are under the umbrella of a parent organization like NCPTA. Please, please, please exercise your power and your position as advocacy organizations and make sure that you are including in your communication regularly that people need to exercise their right to vote. At NCPTA, we are saying it's one voter and we have one voice, just like we say every child, one voice.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. So at Public Schools First NC, we do have an election campaign called Be a Public Education Voter. And that you can learn more about that under, if you'll remember the homepage I showed you a few slides ago, under the Engage tab, there is a public education voter information subpage or, link. And you can get, nonpartisan resources to, ncvoter.org, vote411.org, the North Carolina Board of Elections. And that's where you can find information on the issues and that candidate position questionnaire. Thank you.
So this is very exciting. Not like all of our partnership work with Public Schools First NC has not been exciting, but we are so excited. And we've gotten lots of feedback from our membership with NCPTA and even some of our folks who may not necessarily be members about the 2024 NC Superintendent of Public Instruction Candidates Forum that NCPTA and Public Schools First NC are co-hosting, where we'll have our two candidates. And this is a huge, I'll do my little segue. I'm a 24-year educator and very proud of that, public school educator, and have been a teacher, have been an assistant principal or principal, and now I'm a central office or central service staff member in Wake County Public Schools. And I will tell you that just as important as your president, your governor, your mayor, for me, as a public school educator, is the North Carolina Superintendent of Public Instruction. So please make sure you join us as we hear from Maurice Mo Green and Michelle Morrow, September 14th, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. We're excited about our moderator from WUNC TV. It will be live streamed, and this is definitely huge. It's huge because, again, we're putting our advocacy to action, but it's also huge because we are one of the few who have been able to get the two candidates in a space to have a conversation. So kudos to all of the work that our Public Schools First NC folks did to make this happen and for allowing us to take this journey with you all. We are greatly appreciative. And we will have representatives from both of our organizations there live, but we want you all to flood the live stream, get on, join us, because it is going to definitely be well worth your time. Because knowledge is power. And this is an opportunity for both candidates to impart some knowledge about who they are and their position. Oh, I already said this part. Did you know, sorry, got excited. Did you know that the superintendent of public instruction, why it's so important, many reasons, but there's an $11 billion plus budget that this person is going to be responsible for administering. They function with the day-to-day operations at the Department of Public Instruction. They carry out all of the rules and regulations of the State Board of Education, along with budget requests. They have a staff over 1,600 with employees and contractors. They are a non-voting member of the State Board of Education, and they supervise and manage all public school system matters. So this role is not just a nice face with handshaking and smiles. This is a very pivotal role. And so please make sure you educate yourself about both candidates. Beep. Back to you, Lindsay.
Thank you. We're wrapping up, friends, and we'll have a little bit of time for Q&A. So we are hosting a free half-day conference on Saturday, September 21st at the McKimmon Center in Raleigh. It is absolutely free and in person. Registration is required. Our keynote speaker who will be here in person is Jennifer Berkshire. She is the author of a new book called The Education Wars. She is also a podcaster. Her podcast is called Have You Heard? And so she's our keynote, and we will be doing a book talk with her, and then sandwiched between her book talk and a panel discussion with someone, Dr. Moore Lawrence, on the panel. But sandwiched between that, we are going to have a live Zoom conversation with Diane Ravitch, who is well known in public education circles. She is an author and a researcher, and she is going to be having a live Zoom conversation with Josh Cowan, who is also an author and a researcher. He's got a new book coming out. So they're going to be in conversation with the audience. So when you're with us in person, it's going to be an interactive live Zoom with them streamed in. And then we're in person again with Jennifer Berkshire and these lovely panelists that you see from Down Home NC, the Education Justice Alliance. And Yvonne, help me, Marcus Bass is with
the North Carolina Black Alliance.
Thank you. So, and then Dr. Shanika Moore Lawrence. So they will be on a panel discussion that Jennifer Berkshire is going to moderate for us. So please come. Again, it's free, registration required, and you can get that link on our website and on all of our social media, and we'll send the link to register with our follow-up email from tonight.
So then maybe we could do the last closing after you finish this, and the last closing two things later, because I want you to be here for a little while with the Q&A.
Sure. So these are just some QR codes to our fact sheets, our newsletter, and our YouTube channel. If you fast forward, we've got two closing slides. This is all of the Public Schools First NC contact information. And then the next one is where you can connect with North Carolina PTA.
Awesome. Okay, now it's time for some Q&A. So I know, Lynn, you've seen lots of questions in the chat, and you've been responding to them as they came about. Carolyn is asking, is it available on Zoom for those of us who cannot come to Raleigh? And Carolyn, I'm not sure if you're talking, I think you're talking about the last events, the September 14th event. So Yvonne or Lynn, do you want to respond to that? Is that available on Zoom?
What date is that, Shanika?
September 14th.
So for the candidates form, so that will be.
No, I'm sorry, my apologies. September 21st. We got a lot of stuff going on.
So the September 21st is going to be in live, and so we will not, we're not going to be able to live stream it. You're going to have to be there. You're going to have to join us. We will look for ways to share information after the conference is over. But this is an opportunity that is just really great for us. We haven't been able to be in person in a long time. You know, we went through all this in COVID and so forth, and so we're going to have this as an in-person opportunity. And like I said, there will be some opportunities to share some of this information, but being there with Jennifer, you won't regret that. She is, you know, she hosts a podcast. Have you heard? And if you haven't had a chance, I encourage you to jump on that.
And if I may add, Carolyn, I hear you and I get that. But when we are so fortunate to have someone come in from out of state, we really do need to have folks in the room to have that energy that you just can't get online. So we hope you can find a way to be there in person. And if not, watch for that follow-up content.
Awesome. Got another question from Sarah. Many people in Union County had other Zooms tonight. How can I share this recording from tonight?
We're going to make it available. Go ahead, man.
Oh, just as we said, all of our webinars will go on our YouTube channel, and those are free and accessible to anyone at any time. You will need to give us a day or two to get this, you know, loaded onto YouTube. But we are anybody that registered for tonight's webinar is going to get a follow-up email, and in that email is going to be a link to the YouTube recording of this, and also some links to the resources that we've mentioned.
And in fact, we asked you to please share. Please, you know, you get that email that has your slideshow, your links, share. Because one of the goals that we all have, and that's why we're here tonight, is how we can advocate and speak up for public schools and how we can make sure that we share this with our neighbors and friends. And Lynn and I know this happens all the time. And Shanika, you and I were together in Charlotte, and we were surprised at how many people we were presenting to did not even know about the extent of vouchers. They had no idea what was going on with charters. They were very busy in their schools, volunteering, being connected there. But all these things that were happening in Raleigh with the General Assembly, they had no clue. And so it is important that you share. Please share everything that you get from us. We have we are different than some organizations in that everything we put on our website, we put it there for you to use. We want you to download it, copy it, print it, you know, use it. Because we have one goal, and that is to strengthen, support, and advocate for our public schools. And right now, that work could not be more important.
Amen. Another question. Are we safe to say that as a PTA, we support Leandro and show the graphic of what it could bring to our county? Yes, 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 Jen, coming from Wake County. Yes, we do support it. One of our advocacy priorities is school funding. Also, all of the other, which we have 4 advocacy priorities, all of the other advocacy priorities are associated with and can be supported and uplifted if Leandro was able to come to fruition and school districts were able to get the funding that they deserve. So yes, please spread the word. Please use those infographics. Again, we thank our partnership with Public Schools First NC. I see Yvonne has already dropped the profile data there. I was just about to mention that. So please go there and find your LEA, your school district, your county, and push that out in your communication.
Shanika, can you say a little bit about how PTA units, local PTA units, are allowed to pass resolutions on issues as long as it's nonpartisan?
Yes, that is correct. So you can already said it, but yes, Lynn, I'll repeat that. So yes, PTAs are able to
I want it to come from the director of the North Carolina PTA, not
hey,
me.
president, director. Don't give me another title now, Lynn. I'm good with president. Like, do not want director. Don't give Dr. Ray any ideas. As local units and councils, you are able to pass resolutions. What we do ask for you to do is that if you are interested in creating a resolution, that you contact us at office@ncpta.org or president@ncpta.org so that we can partner with you, and that we can also help to mobilize other local units and councils to also join in disseminating and standing behind. Thank you so much, Ebony, one of our board members. Thank you for putting the email address there. Stand behind those resolutions. So yes, Jen, we are able to do that. Yes, Lynn, we are able to do that. And thank you, Bree. Bree says that she's done that with her weekly newsletter at their middle school. She copied the Leandro information and sent it out to our whole school with the county specific infographic. Yes. And then to add on to that, challenge your school communities, right? To then contact their representatives and say, hey, I've seen this. And what's your position? What's your stance? And Lynn, you got a comment from Rebecca. She said, thanks for the shout out for Community Conversations petition, which is all about Leandrin.
Rebecca, you are welcome.
Let's see.
So while you're looking for, sorry, Yvonne, while you're looking for more questions, we're getting ready to log off here, but I just want to reiterate that Public Schools First NC, we are happy to present to your group, to your PTA, to your Rotary Club, to your Sunday school class, whatever it is. We are able, thanks to the generosity of many donors, we can provide that for free, and we can do that virtually or in person. In some cases, if we travel really, really far, we might ask for travel expenses, but other than that, it's something that we are more than happy to provide.
And don't fear, I would say, don't fear, oh, you know, it's only 5 of us or it's only 8 of us. They do not care about the numbers. They emphasize that to us all the time. Even if it's just one person, they are happy to come, and they have traveled with us. I believe we went to Johnston County, New Hanover, Charlotte. We've been a couple of places just in the last few months with each other. And so definitely have gotten some positive feedback from that. And so please spread the word. And if you are not subscribing to their newsletter, please do. And if you're not a member of NCPTA and getting our newsletter, please join. Okay.
And I would like to add, while we're at it, Shanika, that I saw on the slide there, I want to encourage you guys to be a member of the North Carolina PTA. I'm a member of the North Carolina PTA. I don't have any children in the system, but I have a membership because it's important that we support the work that the North Carolina PTA Council is doing. I'm also a member of the NCEA. The same thing, I have a community membership. I'm not an educator, but I think it's important for us to find these organizations that are doing this good work for our teachers and our children and support them. So, you know, that'll be in our email too, but it's only $25 a year to be a member of the North Carolina PTA. And remember that all of us, you know, are volunteers. And so a lot of this is really important to us. And the NCAE is the same thing. They have a $25 membership. So you can support their work advocating for teachers. So these are really good. If there aren't another question in the email, could I share my screen for 1 second and show, I want to show you guys something that I think is really cool. And I want to, can you see my screen? I want to make sure you can see it. Can you see my screen right now? Okay, yes. I want to just show you that this is something that Lynn has worked very hard on. It's the North Carolina Public Education Network, because we want you guys to communicate with each other and connect with us. And so we've worked very hard on this. As you can see, if you hover over a county and you click on it, then we have tried to list every single organization we know that's in that county that's working for kids and teachers in public education. Now, we can't find it all without you. There's so many wonderful advocates on here, as Shanika read the cities you're from. So we really are encouraging you, help us build this out. If you know of organizations that are, you know, going on, and we've also tried to put all the statewide organizations in here. And we're really tickled that we just added community conversations, Rebecca. But we also try to put in here organizations that are working statewide, working in other states, and working nationally. So if you can help us build this out, we would appreciate it. And the last thing I want to show you, but which we showed you earlier, we have worked so hard on this. This is a community profile data that we've put together, and we've tried to take the work of almost every good organization that we know of, and we've put it in this Google Doc for you. It's a public place. We've got the North Carolina budget and tax fact sheets. We've got community profiles by the commissioners. We've got Leandro. We've got a lot of our work that we've done, and we've put everything in here we can find that's available in public schools funding and education. in this public place, so that, you know, you can go there and get it. You can use it, you can download it, you can share it. So this link, please do us a favor and share this data. A lot of, like I said, a lot of really hard work went into this, and it would be a shame not to use it. So please do what you can. But, you know, here's another great fact sheet we have. Here we'll take Pasco County, and you can see we've created these very, very cool images to show what it's costing them, what they should be getting from Leandro, and what they're losing based on vouchers. So anyway, that's a little self-serving here. I'm sorry, but I just wanted you guys to see the hard work that's been going on to try to pull together information. Okay, the link to the page, I certainly can. Okay, give me 1 second to copy this, and this is under on our website, like I said, and really to go to our website and poke around a little bit. You'll be surprised at all the fact sheets and the information that we have there. And as we've said before, use it, use it, use it. It is yours to use. It is yours to download. And were there any other questions? I know we've hit 8 o'clock.
Someone just said, can they get a link to the page? Please drop that link you were just sharing.
Okay, so that, I think I just did that. That's to the Google Drive.
Yes.
That's yeah. And again, like I said, remember, if you come back here, if you look under our resources, we have our newsletters, our fact sheets, the press releases, all these kind of things, a lot of wonderful audio casts. And then this is the network we talked about. The most important thing that I can tell you is join our newsletter, because we send out, Heather Coons spends a whole week working on trying to pull together information that you can use and you need to advocate for kids. This is one that she did on, you know, we just did a fact sheet on vouchers that, you know, she's getting ready to update. And so anyway, we have a lot of stuff there. Want you to use it. Shanika, what else we need to do? Are we ready to wrap this show up?
Yes, I think we are. And again, thank you. I know Lynn had to hop off right at 8, and I'm heading into another meeting at 8 as well. But thank you so much, everyone, for joining us this evening. Thank you, Lynn, for your great presentation and information. Please look for follow-up from Public Schools First NC and NCPTA. And thank you, Yvonne, for being our shero and advocate, and for doing all that you are doing. We greatly appreciate you. Y'all have a great night. See you next time. Bye-bye. Thanks, Yvonne. Talk soon.
Bye, Shanika. See you soon.
Yes, ma'am. Bye-bye.